Turn to Cuba after 9 days of mourning for the passing of former Cuban President Fidel Castro. Castro was buried at his hometown Santiago. Earlier, our US correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease caught up with EFF leader Julius Malema, who was also in Cuba to pay his last respects to Castro.
The SABC belatedly discovered that the EFF were in Havana, Cuba, to pay their respects to the people of Cuba in person. That delegation is led by the Commander-in-Chief himself of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Mr. Julius Malema. Mr. Malema, warm welcome to SABC.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What were your impressions, your initial impressions? I mean, you flew all the way of how the Cubans managed to pay tribute to their fallen leader, Fidel Castro.
Well, we're impressed that ordinary Cuban people felt affected by the passing away of Commandant Fidel Castro. They've all been mourning for the past days, and they've declared 9 days of mourning. And they don't even play music in their cars as part of paying their last respect to a person who liberated them from Batista's dictatorship. And everyone in the city of Havana is quite aware of what is happening, and they've been following, they've been observing those moments of silence, and they've been behaving as if they too are in Santiago, actually paying that last respect for the last moments towards the burial of Commandant Fidel Castro.
Santiago, of course, the second city of Cuba where the revolution was birthed and where victory was declared by Fidel Castro in 1959. I was watching your EFF on Castro event before you left South Africa, and you do speak about Cuba in very glowing terms, whether it's about their free education, free healthcare, the impressive literacy rate they have in this country. What is it about Cuba, the philosophy, the broader perspective that they can teach South Africans?
Well, one of the things that we can learn about the Cubans is that they are highly politically conscientized. They are aware of themselves, they are aware of their surrounding, and they understand what constitutes progress and what constitutes the enemy. And they've come to appreciate that they are in the situation they are because of the choice they've made of not wanting to follow what the big brother America says they must do. And they know that if it was not of illegal embargo imposed on them, they were actually going to be a much more better country. Look at them, they've succeeded. The better education, better health care, the illiteracy levels are extremely low under difficult circumstances. There are many countries which don't suffer from embargo like our country. The illiteracy levels are too high. The quality of education, the quality of primary health care is nothing compared to a country which is suffering from a serious economic embargo. So we can learn from the Cubans through their determination, through their appreciation that they are a unique nation and they've chosen their path and they will live by their conviction.
It's interesting though, Mr. Malema, we've been speaking to some Cubans who say that even despite the embargo, Cuba's model, whether it's a sort of socialist democratic model, could have been more rooted in democracy. They talk about issues of human rights. They talk about freedom of association, freedom of speech. I watched you talk at the EFF on Castro event, and I thought to myself, wow, as an opposition leader in your ilk, speaking in a place like Cuba, that would not be allowed. Are there lessons that the Cubans can learn from South Africa?
Of course, we exist to learn from each other. I think that if they think their model works for them, I'm not the one to impose on them what should be the type of political systems in Cuba, and they are the ones who can choose which direction they want to take.
I guess my question is, do you see a model like Cuba existing in a place like South Africa?
Well, we can do actually much better. Our democratic system is intact, it's working. We should live by it. But there are a lot of things to learn from Cuba. We just spoke now about health, about education, about patriotism, about inculcating the history of the revolution in our education system, so that everybody else is conscientized, everybody else is aware of the surrounding and the existing political environment and how they must position themselves. Of course, there will be some few elements who are not happy. Castro was not money. He can't be loved by everyone. There are those who love him, there are those who have a problem with him because he's a human being. He is bound to commit mistakes. But generally, we are more than happy with the type of work he has done for the Cubans and for the Africans as well. Having contributed to the decolonization of Africa and the defeat of apartheid in Southern Africa is something that we are very proud, and it's what made us to come here. We said we don't care how long it takes. We are going to be with the people of Cuba during their mourning period because that is the least we can do.
Now let's talk a bit about the economic embargo that you mentioned. We've seen this, what they call rapprochement under President Obama, a sort of recalibration of the relationship between Cuba and the United States. We now have a president-elect, I beg your pardon. His name is Donald Trump. What do you make of some of the statements he's making about Cuba, and how do you see this relationship moving forward in the future?
I think that one of the observations that Commandant Fidel made was that I will only bow out once I've destroyed America. And I think
I don't think he destroyed America.
The ushering in of Donald Trump is a self-destruction. Fidel didn't have to do it. And you can see from irresponsible statements that are made by a presidential elect who's supposed to actually be uniting everyone. He is more divisive. He makes very reckless statements that you will actually expect from a music celebrity, not from a presidential elect. So I think that the self-destruction of America opened ways for Fidel to bow out on his own and say, now I think they are going to become a joke of the world. And they must see to experience what a joke president does, because that's what we experience in South Africa. So they have got their own Zuma now. So we are happy that Americans will have the same feeling. And I'm not happy with the protest. You can't protest against the vote. They must allow him to go occupy the office. Maybe if he make a serious error of judgments and contravene the American laws, only then they can then say we've got a legitimate cause to say he must go. You cannot contest a democratic outcome. That is undemocratic.
Final question for you. As you now mentioned, the United States is very much in transition after a President Trump is elected. Let's talk about the transition that's underway in Cuba as a final sort of departing point. What do you make of Cuba opening up to the rest of the world? And are you concerned that the socialist model that Fidel Castro fought so long to create is going to be undermined and threatened?
Not at all. I'm happy that the Cubans are opening up to the world. They are opening up to America. Because, capitalism, every time it fails, is given an opportunity to adjust itself, to remodel itself, to speak to current conditions. And when socialism does the same, it is accused of permanent failure. So we look at what has worked under Fidel, and President Raul will say, this has not worked, this has worked, but the fundamentals will remain. Their mine here is hotels. And the hotels are owned by the government because that's what generates an income. Do we still have to own the hotels, or do we have to outsource them? If we outsource them, how do we stand to benefit as the Cuban state? So we are not even threatened by any form of change, because every economic system go through adjustments. And we've seen it with capitalism, and socialism must be allowed to do the same. It is a socialist state in China, yet there are some amendments and adjustments made to that system, yet the socialist principles and fundamentals still remain. The state is still the owner of strategic means of production in China. And I hope and I'm confident that even in Cuba, they will not let go of strategic means of production in the economy.
Well, a confident Julius Malema. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Julius Malema, the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters, speaking to us here in Havana, Cuba, just hours after the ashes of the late President Fidel Castro were interred in Santiago de Cuba.